Hey, deserving listeners, Single Life, tell all. Let's watch.
In situation where I feel uncomfortable, insecure. Why? For who? Who is there for me? Empty space? No, I'm not doing it.
Natalie, are you holding on to Mike just for the security, or do you want to be in a relationship with him?
Yeah, great question, Sean. Let's see what Natalie says.
Empty space? No, I'm not doing it.
Natalie, are you holding on to Mike just for the security, or do you want to be in a relationship with Mike?
I'm not holding to Mike. Mike is a part of my life. We talk.
Are you in love with him, though? Do you love him?
Great question by Tiffany. Let's see what Natalie says to that.
I just couldn't cope. I
Natalie,
couldn't
so
cope with what life I got. That's it. And it's not Michael's fault. But it doesn't mean I have to run like...
Wait, what did she say to the question? Let's rewind.
I'm not holding to Mike. Mike is a part of my life. We talk.
Are you in love with him, though? Do you love him?
I just couldn't cope. I
Natalie,
couldn't cope with what life I got.
I couldn't cope with the life I got. That's it. It's not Michael's fault. Now, there is a strong possibility that at the very least in this moment, and maybe in general, Natalie actually doesn't know the answer to that question. When people go through those kind of relational traumas that I think she went through, that will deny the child the opportunity to connect with their needs and connect with their feelings and what they want in life. And so they have quote unquote wants, but they don't really have a place to go to. When we're in a situation like this, it's hard enough as it is, right? When you're trying to decide between something like this. But 95% of the answer to the question, should I be with Mike, should I be with Josh, has to do with what's on the inside and has nothing to do with what's on the outside. There's a little bit of that, but most of it has to do with, well, what do I want? What do I need? What's my gut telling me? Who do I love? Do I love this person? How do I feel around these individuals? How have I felt in the past? How, if to predict into the future, how will I feel with this person? How have I felt in the past when I've been in similar situations? And all of that requires a connection with your needs, with your wants, which I don't necessarily know if she has. So when I see people answering questions like this, do you want to be with Mike? What's going on there? Do you want to get divorced? And Natalie doesn't really answer that question. Is Mike a part of your life? Well, he's always going to be a part of my life. Do you love him? Well, it's not my fault. I didn't ask for this situation. Because when I hear those kinds of answers, it could be frustrating to hear them because you're not answering the question. But I've been with many clients along these lines, and when I see this, I usually I hope I can identify it earlier on so that I don't assume, because I need to know that. I need to know in clients whether or not they are in touch with that. And then I will not expect answers to, because a lot of therapy has to do with well, what do you want? How do you feel? What are your needs? And if they can't answer those questions, one, I need to know that. And two, it can be very distressing to ask clients questions like that, especially in therapy where it's really focused on them. And you can cause people to have a lot of distress. When you force people to look into the emptiness, they think it's empty, it's not empty, they just can't see anything. It's one of the most distressing things people can go through. Because just imagine that you look to yourself and go, how do I feel? And it's almost like a dissociative feeling where you just feel like you're not really real. You don't exist. And that can be very scary. It'd be very frightening. I've seen people decompensate in that situation, and so I don't want to do that to people. I also want to go on a long-term treatment protocol in which I will and have successfully helped people actually see who they are and connect with that. So there's a possibility she doesn't even have answers to these questions.
That's it. And it's not Michael's fault. But it doesn't mean I have to run
Is this the same answer you always get?
Yeah, so now you can understand. Now you guys can understand.
That makes sense.
Right.
Natalie, you can only have one man at the end of the day, Natalie. You have to pick. Which one is it? Is it going to be him or is it going to be Mike? And you got to give 100% to that person.
I'm sorry, I need to cook.
Yeah, I think this is too much for her. One, it's hard. She doesn't know what to say. And two, I think she's misinterpreting the intensity of everyone, interrogating her as judgment. I'm sure there's some judgment there, but I don't think it's very much. I think a lot of people are on her side for the most part. But yeah, I think it's possible that she actually, one, is worried about making a choice because she's worried about being alone. And two, she might not know how she feels and feels a lot of distress because she doesn't know how she feels.
I feel you.
Oh my God.
Well, I feel you.
I'm telling you, what you guys all got, that's what I get.
Well, I
So,
think it's like too emotional for her right now. Like feels,
I think
probably
it's
she
a
feels
lot.
like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? How was that?
I feel like if I'm such a monster, what's the problem? Go, leave me. I mean, I'm not running after.
Okay, so she's focusing on Josh. If I'm such a monster, then go, leave me. I'm not going to run after you. I mean, yeah, I think she literally believes that's what's happening, is that Josh believes she's a monster or is treating her like she's a monster and judging her. All Josh is saying is, he was asked, is she your girlfriend? And he said, that's not up to me. She's still married. And she says she might want to still be with Mike. So she can't be my girlfriend if that's the case. I'm open to her being my girlfriend if she were to get divorced and leave Mike. But until then, no. That is extremely reasonable for Josh to hold to. But to her, Josh is making her out to be a monster and is judging her and mistreating her because of her transference and her displacement, is my guess, is that she was made out to be a monster. She was rejected unfairly when she was young, repeatedly, and when there's even the possibility of displacing that onto someone else, she does that.
Whatever.
You know, there's been instances like I'm still working on with her, even with my work, like she's messaged my workers before. I was like, you have to understand.
Natalie has sent a message to your workers?
Yeah.
Saying
and
what?
it was just filled with insecurities. Like,
Wow. I'm guessing Josh is being very diplomatic and nice about this. Messaging his coworkers with insecurities. I'm going to take a guess and say that Natalie would be messaging women that Natalie believes Josh might be getting with, cheating with, or even women that Natalie believes are trying to pursue Josh, and Natalie was attacking these women. I obviously have no data on that, but I'm going to take a guess and say that because what else would it be, right? Well, maybe we'll find out.
it was just, like, don't you know I've been, sleeping with your boss for like over a year. It was weird. It was just really weird. And
Right. So Natalie is messaging women saying, don't you know I've been with him for a year, so back off. You don't have any. It's not your territory, or I don't know. I'm just taking a guess as to what else she was saying. But yeah, wow. And if the genders were reversed, this would be easily seen for what it is, which is schemas and traumas resulting in someone being aggressive, hostile, abusive, invasive. Imagine if a man called, imagine if Josh called Natalie's place of work and was yelling at the men there saying, I've been sleeping with her for a year and back off. It would be pretty easy to see that as a component of coercion, abuse, and control. And so that's what's happening with Natalie. I don't know how Josh, it all depends on how Josh feels about it. If he feels scared, which would not be strange to me, which I wouldn't be surprised if the Natalies of the world are terrifying. If you're actually, well, I can't know that, but the way she presents on this show, I'll tell you, when you run into these people, it can look innocent. It can look like, well, Natalie's suffering, and so what are you going to do? When people have her point of view and you hear it repeatedly and you see the behaviors, it's scary because you don't know what they're capable of. If she's going to call my work, if she's going to believe that about me, what else is she going to do? What else is she saying about me? And it can get out of control. It can get real intimidating. And people in Josh's position can end up sustaining a relationship way longer than they would otherwise because they're afraid of breaking up. They're afraid of pulling away.
like I told her, like, dude, you can never do that again. And she's like, I'm sorry, I won't. But
Wait, Josh, who did she send this to? A female employee?
Yeah, because she had reposted something on Instagram. I think that she just did not like the message.
Okay, so let's see what Natalie does here.
Natalie, so while you were gone, I was asking Josh about some of the challenges in your relationship, and he said that you have sent messages to his employee.
So I think, given that she's still triggered, I think, from previous conversations, she's not going to be differentiated in this moment, which is not common for her anyway. And I think she's going to say, well, these women were being inappropriate and they deserved it or something. Or, I don't care because Josh doesn't say I'm his girlfriend and so screw him, I don't want to talk about it. Or, well, I wouldn't have reached out to those women if Josh hadn't had done, there'll be some justification because it'll feel just to her. Let's see what happens.
She said that she had better options than I did. And,
What else did she say?
okay.
No, it was
Okay.
more.
it's something,
no,
it was something like that.
And
You
what
led us to
else?
believe it's something
Oh,
totally
so
different.
your employee posted something on social media.
It was
It was
it was
something
it was a
else, no?
bad joke that she said.
Just, no, she used my picture. It was only my picture.
Oh, well, that's different. So a friend of his, an employee, was basically insulting Natalie. I think saying that Josh has more options. He's a better catch than Natalie is. Is that? And then she went at. So it wasn't the way that Josh portrayed it. The way that Josh portrayed it was like Natalie out of the blue just started attacking people that had nothing to do with Natalie. But that isn't what it sounds like it happened.
I want to
so
hear the
here's the
story
thing.
from
Give us
him.
mitigating factors.
Sure.
He gave me 4 tequilas that I was like not even able to speak. And it was so embarrassing. And from all beautiful
Wow,
shots, he
dude.
used a shot where I'm totally drunk as much out.
Okay, so she is saying, oh, there's so many things that are happening. She's saying, he gave me 4 tequilas and he shouldn't have done that. Natalie, you're a grown woman. You can, now, did he coerce you to drinking those, which is not okay? I doubt that happened. So you can drink or not drink, Natalie. So 1. 2, there's a picture where she looks very drunk, according to her. And now she could be upset, like, hey, why did you post that picture? It was awful. You should have asked me first, or you shouldn't ask me those kind of questions when I'm drunk because I'm not going to be able to make a good choice about that. Oh, yeah, okay.
Wait,
you don't give a how I
you
feel.
posted something
Because you don't give an F about how I feel. That's her accusation of him.
of Natalie when she was drunk
No.
on social media?
Yeah.
This is going in the wrong direction.
You've been
here.
getting her
Hold on a
drunk.
second. Can I talk for like
Yeah.
And then Debbie, you've been getting her drunk. What? Now, baby, did he trick her into drinking the alcohol? Did he coerce her? Did he force her to drink the alcohol? She's a grown woman. She can make choices for herself.
And
10 seconds?
let Josh explain. Go ahead,
Jesus
Josh.
Christ over here. Okay. So I posted a 30-second reel on my Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, which was me and Natalie on our second date. So
Oh, sure you
it
did.
was reposted from my Instagram on different people's stories.
It was very offensive. Okay. Did he ask Natalie if it was okay to post? I don't know. So we're hearing context. It was that second date that we actually saw on the show when she started drinking alcohol. And she's talked about how she doesn't normally drink alcohol, so a little bit goes a long way with her. And she did seem intoxicated when she was talking to him. But again, she made that choice to drink.
It was very offensive.
And so you sent her an email or a
I
message,
said,
a DM?
Hi, I'm Natalie. Why would you say such a thing?
Yes.
You haven't met me in real. And for you to know we're dating for real, she never responded me on that.
You made us believe that she was out of her mind and did this post that was wild because she was jealous and sent it to your work at your employee.
Yeah. So if I was to take a guess, I would say that Josh was reaching for something to make a point that is harder to make. I think that the point probably still stands that she, Natalie, is insecure. I think Natalie might agree with that, but I imagine everyone watching would agree with that, and is problematic and hostile. And he doesn't have a firm example that he feels like he can put forth that would encapsulate that experience for him. It'd be hard to explain to someone unless you watch the show or knew of these kinds of relationships, just how it feels. And let me be clear, being in a relationship with someone like Natalie can be, and I've said this before, it can be so scary and intimidating. If you've ever been in a relationship with, and I'm guessing you have, some of you, and are triggered by her, it is frightening, because the issue is when we're interacting with people, particularly when we're involved with them intimately, we need to be able to predict their behavior. And it's a weird thing that we don't notice until it's not there. When we just walk up to someone in the store, when you are in the grocery store and you go up to the cashier, we can predict a lot of things. We can predict, there's so many things that we know, even before we interact with the cashier, how things will likely play out. If I were to say nothing to the cashier, they probably will say nothing to me. If I were to say hello, they would probably say hello back. If I were to engage in light conversation, they may or may not participate back, but probably a little bit. What we're highly sure of is that if I walk up and buy my groceries from the grocery clerk, that they're not going to slap me across the face, or they're not going to pull out a gun and shoot me. They're not going to scream as if I'm trying to victimize them. They're not going to throw the food in my face. There's a lot of possible behaviors that sound ridiculous, right? Because we just know that they're not likely to happen. So our security, our safety, our sense of safety in the world depends on us being able to predict people's behavior. This is why when you go to another culture where the routines and the protocols are different, you can feel scared. Some people like that fear, some people don't. It's a culture shock or whatever. And you end up wondering, I can't predict anything. I don't know how anything operates. I don't know what people are going to do when I do this. And plus, people tend to react to me as if I'm not reacting the way that they expect me to react. And so when we're in a culture and when we're in a situation where everything is moving smoothly and there's certain protocols that everyone is following, it's safety. We feel safe. When you're driving on the road, when you're driving on the freeway, you expect people to use their blinkers. You expect people to not just change lanes. You expect people to drive a certain mile per hour, certain speed, velocity. And when they don't do that, it's very upsetting, because you're like, well, what else are you capable of? If you've ever seen someone do something a little odd when they're driving, you would do well by distancing yourself from them, because you don't know what they're going to do. Just, they did something that was a little different. Anyway, and we've looked into this many, many times. There's lots of research on this. But my point is that when you're with someone and you're in an intimate relationship and we have certain expectations and predictions, and when they don't adhere to that prediction and they're very much different than what we would expect someone to think and feel and behave, then a lot of other possibilities open up where we're like, well, normally I'm not thinking about whether or not this romantic partner is going to hire someone to kill me or not. Normally I'm not thinking, are they going to slit my throat in the middle of the night? Normally I'm not worried they're going to call the police and accuse me of sexually assaulting them. Normally I'm not doing that, because I don't think that would happen. But with this person, even though there's no indication that they're going to do those extreme things, I can't predict this person's behavior. There's so many weird things about this person that I are unexpected. Well, what else are they capable of? And abusive people will depend on this or benefit from it. They will, someone shows a classic example of stalking, that the stalker will just show up at your workplace, will park across the street and just sit there and eat lunch. And you look out your window and there's your stalker, and they're not threatening you. They don't have a gun. Maybe that's all that they've done. Maybe this is the first indication of stalking that has happened. But immediately you will be afraid, because you're like, well, if you're capable of that, what else are you capable of? I've seen no indication that you're going to kill me. You've never harmed anyone physically in the past that I know of. But that one behavior where either the stalker knows they're doing this or it's inadvertent, that it's like, I'm willing to cross this line, come to your place of work and sit across. I'm going out of my way to do this, and you don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use that big question mark as a way of controlling you. There's a possibility that Natalie makes people feel that way because of the way that she acts. I've treated people like her. I've treated victims that were associated with people that were involved with people with a presentation like this, and it's strangely terrifying. So there's a possibility, not strangely, it's terrifying in a way that other people might not be able to understand. And when you are terrified that way, like the stalker example, you go to someone that's never been through that before and you're just like, oh my God, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it. My ex, that was really upset that I broke up with him. He was across the street, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I know the creepiness of it. If you've ever been through, he doesn't live or work anywhere near my place of work. He's never even been to my place of work. He was sitting across in his car within eyesight of my window eating his lunch, just sitting there. To someone that doesn't know, they'd be like, well, who cares? I mean, just let it go. Did he threaten you? No. Has he ever threatened you? Did he have a gun or something? No. Does he have a history of that? No. Not that I know of. Well, then what are you worried about? Okay, so it's hard to tell someone, it's hard to get people to relate to it unless you've been in it before. And so there's a possibility that Josh has a tremendous amount of that fear. And when he tries to explain it to people, they're just like, huh? Well, why are you afraid? Or why are you so concerned? I mean, it sounds like she's just kind of emotional or she gets insecure. Like, why are you so concerned about it? And so he started to, because you figure he talks to a lot of people in his life, he might have started gravitating toward an easier story to convey how he feels that didn't actually fit with the data. And so he started telling people this, and again, this is total speculation upon speculation, but he's telling people, yeah, I mean, she started DMing people, telling them to stay away from me. I mean, that's how possessive and that's how irrational and how crazy she is or something. And then he comes on the show and repeats that and then has to elaborate, and it doesn't really make any sense. Or he is a shady individual that lies and then is now caught in a lie. I don't know. What do you think? All right, well, let's end it there. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.